Okay, so I guess maybe I'll start off telling you what I'm doing and what my project is on, and so you'll have like a little bit better idea for that, refresh your memory. So I'm doing an independent study right now, kind of traveling around to different farms who have a education component to their mission. And this summer I was working with the Farm Institute, designing adult programs there, and basically I came up with a lot of challenges, and I wanted to see pretty much how other farms are doing and like what the challenges they are facing, and kind of just get suggestions for people who are trying to start up programs and kind of just go from there. So mostly for me, but maybe for other people someday too. So I've been traveling to different farms, and even I went to UVM Extension and talked to them as well, and I've been trying to go to Green Mountain College. And so just trying to go pretty much all over the board.
Wow,
Talk
cool.
to a lot of different
So you're saying like institutional and sort of college level, and then private or quasi-private?
Yeah, and as well as like informal training, apprenticeships, anything along those lines, just to kind of, just because there's so many different things that you can do up there, and education was really exciting. So all the way from like 2-year-olds all the way up to like 100-year-olds, like everyone can learn something, especially with agriculture and even just food. Like seeing how a carrot grows is really like new for a lot of people. So I think it's really important for people to be able to learn that and have access to it, and try and find out how people can access it. It's another thing I'm looking at too. So. And
cool.
Agriculture.
Yeah, agriculture. Food's good. I
love food. So maybe for your video, you could just kind of briefly state your mission and like the main focus of DAcres.
Well, I think the focus of DAcres is to provide a working model that then people can come and participate in and observe and take ideas away from. Things they would do, things they might not do, but at least provide a public model so that people can experience this process you're talking about from seed to seed, from that sort of awakening that, if I put this seed in the ground, what will spring forth to the higher levels of knowledge where you're like determining what varieties of plants you want to grow and so forth.
Yeah. So is your main focus like community outreach, or are you more focused specifically towards people who are already involved in agriculture?
Well, both. It's very interesting how the project has developed. I mean, I myself, grew up in suburbia, like with my parents are physicians. I really didn't have much exposure to getting my hands in the dirt and the manual labor of agriculture. So for me, I moved here when I was 25 years old with, some farm experience, but I really feel like I was maybe the first student, so to speak, here. I probably have the longest tenure as a student, and maybe someday I'll get my doctorate or whatnot, but I look at it as just a long process of education. So probably within my lifetime, I'm not going to attain,
Yeah, never going to stop learning.
Yeah, never going to stop learning, and just the amount of knowledge that humanity is capable of, like generational knowledge, probably not. We're trying to get that started again here. That really doesn't exist much, really, in North America these days, unfortunately.
That's very true. I know you guys do workshops and other things like that. What are, I would say, your biggest ones, like the ones you look forward to the most, the ones that are the most popular?
It varies. Some years things are hit or miss. I mean, I like a good crowd of interesting people. I think most of the subject material that we present is stuff that we're passionate about and we're pretty familiar with. But it's great when a lively crowd shows up and expresses a lot of interest. Composting, it seems like sort of a silly word, but I really get into it. I like checking out the compost piles, and I like talking about compost and people's experiences with compost. The permaculture design course is a really popular thing, and how we have it set up over the course of 7 months. And so 1 weekend per month over 7 months, you really sort of develop a rapport with the students, and you can see the progression in their thought. And with that class as well, it sort of brings this familiarity to it. People, are here for 7 weekends, so they really get to know the place, and they come back and are sort of part of the whole process from thence onwards. And so that's a nice experience to really get that sort of immersion. But workshops, yeah, it could be, I like talking about the garden and soil building, and then we do animal husbandry workshops and mushroom growing workshops, and get alternative construction workshops and woodworking. Woodworking can be a fun workshop for me. It's a little nerve-wracking when people start playing with power tools in front of you for the first time, but yeah, if you can live with that. I like the whole process. I mean, I think what's so joyful about it is this whole range of ages and this sort of concept of always being a student of life. You can gain a lot from being an instructor to a 5-year-old as well as a 95-year-old. I mean, both those, you can learn a lot from the whole process. It's really rewarding in that regard.
Absolutely. Do you get a lot of people from your general community, or is it people traveling long distances to seek out what you're teaching?
It depends. It really does. Some of the more specific workshops, say we do a workshop in cob construction, it's not really so prevalent in the region. People will come from New York City or down south. We've had people fly for weekend workshops from Illinois and Colorado, and it's a little bit ridiculous at that stage. You wonder why they can't find something a little bit closer, but I guess that's the circumstance. For the most part, what we're aiming to do with our programs is to be as local as possible. We try to put a price incentive in there for local people, so there's reduced rates for people in our county. And we're doing advertisement, but the structure is really designated for accessible for all incomes, and most of the workshops could be 2 to 4 hour type things that don't really, it's hard to justify coming from more than 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I guess in regards to, I sort of hear your questions after you've asked them. So that I answer them. But in terms of are they professional gardeners? Are they home gardeners, sort of novices?
Yeah.
Our outreach is geared towards all those groups, sort of different levels of intersecting with them. So yeah, there's definitely these novice level workshops where we go through the fundamentals of planting of seeds, starting plants, or we have more higher level workshops that will be focused on professional growers and farmers. Most of those we end up bringing in presenters. It's for our own knowledge as well as the broader community's knowledge. So if we bring somebody in that's an author or extension agent or something like that has that expertise, it's sort of for our benefit as well as that larger community. It is tough sometimes, sort of figuring out where that audience is and intersecting. It can be challenging. But another thing we do as far as our overall service to the community is to do different kinds of, it's almost like business networking, almost like a chamber of commerce or so forth, except for farmers and for natural resource entrepreneurs. So we put together what's known as a local goods guide. It's the 7th year we've put that together, and more or less it's an informational brochure that has farmer listings in it and has other sort of agricultural specialists. Where do you get your hay? Where do you get your firewood? That sort of thing. So that sort of is a way to connect that segment.
Yeah.
So we can sort of serve as that organization that is the glue that provides that infrastructure to connect those different people. As far as education, but also developing the economy of the region.
Do you have a lot of contact with other local farmers? Like, are you guys pretty well in contact with each other and trying to like work together to?
Yeah, it's pretty. What we do is we also have like in the business realm of things and the education realm of things is we operate a multi-farm CSA.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do is we'll get a bunch of different farms in the region that have their specialty. Like we have an egg farmer and we have a dairy and somebody that grows a lot of potatoes, somebody that does a lot of beans, that sort of thing. And they're specialists, but it's hard for them to get into the market to make a CSA if they just grow beans. So what we do is we bring all those different ones together. We more or less organize that CSA and sell it as a package, so that then they're guaranteed sales, and it integrates all the agriculture, weaves us all together.
How long have you been doing that for?
Maybe a year and a half. Scott downstairs is the one who initiated that program.
That's an idea I think that a lot of communities could benefit from, and a lot of farmers could really work together that way. That's a really great idea.
No, I think it is. It's been very successful. I mean, you almost get your whole grocery basket, because your typical CSA isn't that full menu CSA. And it's real hard for any one farm to want to even do all that. So I think it's a great way to collaborate. And that way, too, you can really get those niche farmers involved. You got somebody that's making honey or somebody that's making soap or something like that. You can just package it all together, bundle it. I think that's the term of our era, bundling.
Bundled CSAs.
Bundled CSA.
So what is your main way to attract people to your farm? Before you talk about marketing, and what is your main way of trying to reach a new audience, or keep your audience who's come again?
Word of mouth is definitely the most successful marketing tool. Beyond that, I think we've really pushed the threshold on the World Wide Web. The YouTube videos, the Facebook page, the Constant Contact, which is an email server, so to speak. Just building up the information that's available on our website or on the YouTube channel, and also really building up the mailing list and the contact list. And then having a systematic approach to it. It's not something that you can sort of use for an event at the last minute. It's more you have that progression sort of organized to a degree, let people know at least a month in advance that it's coming up, and then 2 weeks before give them another heads up, and then a week before and 72 hours before some more information. It's a lot more strategy and a lot more administration and computer work that I had ever anticipated in terms of this my role here. Yesterday I was on the computer all day. I started with bookkeeping and did checks and deposits from 7 to 9, and then got on to grant writing. Submitted 10, 12 grants yesterday, which is huge. It's a big day, but that's a full day, 9 to 5. And then in the evening I got on and did web design, web updates, and so forth. And that really was never in my anticipated job description. When I was thinking about becoming a farmer, I didn't see this computer time being part of it.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that.
It's really not what I would have chosen as a profession, but I think it's almost essential in this day and age. Like you're saying, I mean, this town has 300 people in it. There's just not a lot of people that, how many times is that one person would want to come to a compost workshop? So you got to figure out how to branch further and sort of develop that rapport with your clientele once again, to sort of see the direction they want to see in the programming and so forth. what kind of workshops or events would be exciting to this community. You know, is it a dance? Is it something specifically educational? If so, is it forestry? Is it construction? Is it gardening? Is it waterworks? Is it energy systems? You know, you just it's hard to gauge sometimes where the real interest lies.
Yeah. Do you have a way to gauge people, like a survey or something? Or?
Yep. We do evaluations at workshops, so when people leave the workshop, they have that evaluation sheet that, you know, not only gives you feedback on the actual program that you just offered, but also, you know, the direction you go in the future. But there's also, like you say, an end-of-year survey, Survey Monkeys, you send out to the membership or the constituency looking for direction on where to go with the program. And feedback is important at all these levels. I think part of the education program, like we obviously have these workshops and things that we advertise, public presentations, experiential workshops, community events as well, the food events, breakfast where we're doing a big tour, pizza night this Friday where it has a movie, you know, some sort of informational documentary. We have like a cooking class that is a regular community event that we also get to eat at. In addition to all of that stuff, we also have a residential program. And, you know, I think this really harkens back to, you know, the motivation to come here and to do this work. Didn't really find a place like Sterling when I was looking to go to college. I'm sure like Prescott and Sterling and Evergreen, those type of places, Warren Wilson, existed. I just wasn't aware when I was in college. So I ended up going to a progressive school, but it was a large school that wasn't really hands-on and wasn't really, didn't really give you a lot of tangible, practical ways that you could address the problems of the world. You know? More or less the environmental program that I went to would show you how to continue to assess the problems. You could study pollution. Like go out and do testing to see the mercury rise in the ponds. And I'm sure that's valuable and so forth, but it didn't really provide a solution to say, okay, this is how we could stop the mercury from rising in the ponds. And so that was really troubling, you know. I think places like Sterling and so forth give you some hands-on capacity to sort of, well, if I have a problem with industrial agriculture, then I can learn how to grow my own food. If I have a problem with how structures and, you know, buildings are constructed today, then we can look at, you know, alternative forms of construction. That wasn't really offered so much within the education system that I was in. At the most, it was sort of like a mention of it, you know, mention of alternatives, but not really, this is how you do it. So this place was created more or less as a trial for us to try those skills and see if we could figure it out from taking a workshop somewhere else or reading a book and then come here and do it. And so that working laboratory environment is something that I think is totally lacking for our society to progress beyond what we are right now. You know, if we're really looking at alternatives to the current situation, then we need to practice some and provide these crucibles or these locations where things are actually experimented with. That's why we're here.
Wow, that's really great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's challenging, and it really
a lot of people who I talk to, like just friends and like people that I meet along the way, either who are like involved in agriculture or want to get involved in agriculture, are really looking desperately for something hands-on, and a lot of people do internships or something. desperately hoping and trying to find a way to like get involved in it. And a lot of times, they are disappointed because like either it's not what it says it was, or it wasn't exactly what they're looking for. And when I'm able to tell people about Sterling and like what we do, and like the fact that like we eat all local food in our like dining hall is like absolutely amazing for people. And so I just love it, and other places share the same passion and like want to keep that going on. And even if it isn't a formal education site, that anyone can have access to it. And I think it's really, really important to have that for just anyone of any age. And I think would be like great if anyone could at any point in time access that, not fly from hundreds of miles just to try and get involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we look at this place as that kind of service model that could be replicated, for every 300 people all throughout this country. I mean, it sort of could fill the niche of, say, the YWCA and the Masons and sort of church groups, it could provide community support, education, just all in all help round out a rural or urban community as a community center, as a place where young people of all ages can come and share the information and the food and the passion.
Definitely. What do you find that your biggest challenges are here, like running the place, besides having to sit at computers for long hours of days?
Oh boy.
Which for anyone, I think, is a huge challenge.
It's financially difficult to pay for education and service work. I think the finances are a major component of why more people don't do this. It is challenging to raise the revenue necessary to offer services for low cost. And, so I think that's an aspect of it. It can be a little humbling as well doing this kind of work, in the sense that, like I said, I didn't grow up on a farm. And, I don't really think I will know everything or want to know everything, but it's sometimes humbling to get shown that you don't know everything. But that's the nature of it. I think lots of people are sort of resistant to get into this type of work where you're inviting strangers into your home, into your living environment, into your personal space. It's humbling as well. There's the farming end of things, and then there's the people end of things. And making it all work with the interpersonal relationships is very challenging in this circumstance. I think, it would be ideal if everyone got along, but we don't all the time, and particularly people that are strong-willed and anti-authoritarian and are open to alternative ideas. We're a pretty small segment of the population, really, but we find it really hard to get along with one another as well. So it's an interesting dilemma, really, that there can be so much division within a group of people that really shares a lot of the similarities, but the divisions will be so difficult to rectify or resolve. I think that's a hard thing, but it's super rewarding. I mean, just the whole lifestyle, the fresh air, the great food. It's super on the physical plane, but spiritually, it is super rewarding to get to the level where you're working with other people on sort of that spiritual plane where you have trust in one another, and it's not driven by like money or blood blood relations or anything like that. It's more of a collaboration amongst humanity. And it's a sweet spot to be in. It really, really super rewarding to be involved with that as your life's work. Yeah, there's some spiritual power in that. It makes you sleep good at night.
Yeah.
Conscience feels good. Works out well.
Definitely. So for like the organization, and you guys have so much going on, what are your plans for the future? Like keep growing, keep offering education, keep...
I think we would like to keep offering, workshops or educational events and keep doing outreach and, participating at that high level in the community. I think, organizationally we'd like to mature as well. I think, during the time of a startup, this was only really our 15th year, 16th year now, just getting all the infrastructure in place and just rush, very unsettled in some sense, because just didn't know, didn't have the experience to know how hard to push, when to push, how to handle the finances through a year-round basis. Just sort of lots of hanging and just nervousness, anxiety. Trying to sort of limit that as we move forward and mature as an organization, so we focus less on growing, sort of growing into kind of more perpetuation as an organization. So, some of that is just sort of the mindset, and some of it is sort of our daily activities, and some of it is how we're going to evolve with personnel. So I think, right now, we're sort of at this phase where we've gone from 1 to 2 people being full-time to 3 to 4 people to be full-time. I think we'll eventually move up to, say, 7 to 10 people being full-time. And I think once we get that range, we'll probably be at the limit to what we want to grow. I don't think that we want to be up to 40 or 50 people here. We don't really have the land base for it. I don't know if that population density is really what we're looking for. But 7 to 10 people living here and really doing the tasks of the organization would be great. I think we could expand our outreach tremendously in our educational capacities as well. So look forward to doing that. More specialists and more people who have expertise in particular things. And I think so they could, provide those really high-level workshops here, as well as more perform capabilities within the region to network and to build the knowledge within the region. Say if we had somebody here who was a specialist in rice production or gray water system, so if we got a really tuned-in gray water system here, it could be a demonstration model, that person focuses on that. That provides education to all the people coming through as well. That whole experiment and that process, that person could take that on the road and go to conferences and network with other people involved in that field and really grow that for the region. To provide those kind of models in gray water or rice production or methane digestion, just this whole solar dehydration. If somebody was just well into that focus, and they could write the white papers and do all that sort of research at a high level, that we could really broadcast the seeds of this information to a wider audience. That would be great. And we're sort of scrambling right now too. Yeah. We're not really, it's like we've grown into this skin, and we're still scrambling to get all the tasks done. And so I think with a couple more people that were really focused in on the project, we could really get some level of comfort. Just scrambling all the time. I gotta go out and cut firewood, you know. Holy mackerel. It's one thing, it's always something.
It is.
Always something.
I have to say it again, but this building and your property is absolutely beautiful. It's just, it really is incredible.
You should come back in the spring.
I should.
There's green stuff.
I bet there is green stuff. The white's pretty too, and the fog, and the mist. But for like financing this, was it mostly through grants and other stuff like that, or?
Well, the initial financing for, say, this building and everything came from private sources. Mm-hmm. I did some serious arm twisting with my parents, and it was, it was a discussion we entered into that revolved around how wealth is utilized. Mm-hmm. My parents made a lot of money doing the thing they had a passion for, which is medicine. And so they accumulated quite a bit of money that was sitting in these banks or these institutions, and Lord knows how they use it. But it's not always the clean money that you would like it to be. And I wasn't really interested in staying sort of in limbo in that scenario. I wasn't interested in waiting until my parents died, so then I would gain some sort of inheritance. So I entered into a dialogue with them and was really pushing for them to expend any of those funds that they were keeping in the banking institutions and in the stock market. I felt like it was just paper. Mm-hmm. And so just sort of begged and pleaded and coerced them, guilt trip, you name it, to try to finance this facility. Mm-hmm. And the idea was once we had this facility in place, then it would be the infrastructure that would enable us to become more self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And to a large degree, that's played out. This initial push, to invest in this facility has allowed us for the subsequent years to, we run with $100,000, $150,000 budget per year, and we bring in a pretty diversified stream of income to cover a whole bunch of crazy expenses. But we make money off overnight accommodations. Mm-hmm. So the Boy Scouts will come up, or rock climbers will come up, or you name it, the hostel type mm-hmm. atmosphere. And so the idea is then when they get here, we put the sustainability message in blinking lights. We really try to educate them about what we're doing here and mm-hmm. why. And through that course, we gather revenue. And a large portion of that revenue is from the meals. Mm-hmm. And we're really value adding. Like our potatoes, we can't make a whole lot of money selling wholesale potatoes. I don't know, you get like 5 cents for a pound of potatoes in Maine, and it's not worth picking them. Mm-hmm. But when we can throw potatoes on somebody's breakfast plate as home fries, we charge them $10 a plate. That's only better food than they're likely to receive anywhere else in the state of New Hampshire, but also puts the revenue directly in our pocket, as opposed to the middlemen, mm-hmm. grocery stores, you name it. So bringing people on site, get them to spend the night, get them to eat the food, is one way that we're really sustaining this farm. And then we also do farm products. We'll do piglets and cordwood and sell vegetables, that sort of thing. That people that are coming here to learn are also helping produce. So they're sort of integrated into that system. But we don't really depend on them as paid labor.
Yeah.
You can't look at this sort of education program as free labor, because you're going to end up putting more into training somebody than you're going to be able to get out, mm-hmm. particularly in the short term. It's going to take more effort, and they're going to screw stuff up more than than they can help sometimes, you know. So you just can't really look at it as, well, I'm going to have free labor from these folks. But in terms of our funding stream, back to that, there's also a large degree of community support. So people will become members of the organization, which is really just a way of expressing their support financially. There's also grants. Grants are a funding stream. It's typically less than 20% of how we're making our revenue. So there's 80% there that you got to come by from that revenue to cover those costs. And when we first got into it and became a nonprofit, I think we really believed that we could be funded by grants. You know, just some daddy Warbucks was going to show up and pay for everything. But it's not the case. And, you know, I think even if it did, you know, that would be great for just this place. But I don't think it really is a reasonable model to sort of put out to the community of how to do it. For me, like, I think this model could be replicated by communities investing in a community center, and then having staff on site run the programs and become financially independent by using the facilities in the best interest of the community. So that's sort of the goal. Is so a project like this, you know, to develop this island of information, this island of community connectivity, would require some upfront costs, you know, some investment, and then once it's established, then it can start building on itself. But I don't think it's ever going to come from anywhere, you know, nowhere. It's really hard to. You need a place. You need it to be accessible for a broad spectrum of people. You need to be able to keep it clean. You need to be able to keep it sanitary. And then from there, the sky's the limit. I mean, really, you need the place, and it needs to be a place where people feel welcome. And so, yeah, this is sort of over the top in that regard. This is like the high end of that.
It's very welcoming.
Yeah. So I think you could probably.
I really felt like I was at home.
Cool. Well, maybe it depends too on the person.
I guess so.
I think the idea would be, you know, you probably do it for less of an upfront investment with that sort of strategy in mind. You know, you want to create a welcoming space that serves the purpose of the organization, of the community in general.
Well, do you want to keep talking, or if you want to? I don't want to keep you too long, but
I don't know how long we've been talking.
I don't either. It feels like 5 minutes, but I know it's been longer than that.
Okay. Well, we started at like 12:30 or 1 o'clock.
Probably. I wasn't here till like 1:15. It's 2:15 now. So. 2:15.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have more questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yeah. I was just gonna maybe ask you if you're involved in any local schools at all. I know a lot of people have been getting involved in like back to school. I don't know if you have any involvement in schools or have school groups come here at all.
School groups do come here. Public schools are hard to get. You know, they got liability and cost to work against. So that's sort of a biggie. Private schools find us, you know, they can finance it. They have the buses, they have the time, they have the resources to get kids out here. They have the ratios. You know. It's hard to get 30, 40, 50 kids out there to do anything. Really, you know, you're talking elementary school, even on up to high school. Sometimes they have a hard time getting organized, especially if you don't have, you know, chaperones or people willing to get in there with you to really make that happen. We've been, you know, we've fooled around with a little bit with school gardens and community gardens. The time window is just so hard to work with. It seems like, you know, you get your seed started, and then no one's there for the whole summer to sort of help you get to the fall. So that's been sort of problematic for us. It's hard. I mean, I like the whole concept of it. I would like to see some way to build continuity. You know, if we could get a program where we could bring the kids every grade, you know, once a year, and sort of that progression, or, you know, have an after school or some sort of, you know, where it's every week type thing. And I think we could really start to make some progress. Right now, when they come out, it's sort of like, gets lots of camps and stuff like that, and it's like snuck in between the water park and the ferry ride, and, you know, it's sort of like an attraction. And, you know, it's good in lots of ways, but it sort of feels like you're an animal in the zoo versus, you know, trying to really get them involved and their hands in the dirt, and I'm seeing that progression, you know. I mean, if you come one day, it's sort of neat, but you need to come back and, oh, that pig got bigger, or wow, that carrot that I planted is growing, or, you know, or to see the progression. Well, I didn't water the tomato plant. Look, it's wilted and brown, you know. I mean, that requires a time continuum. And so trying to figure out how to get in there further. I think, you know, we're in there to a degree that they'll come and they'll do a tour or maybe break some leaves or something like that. But to take it to that next level where we can really go, you know, sort of a summer camp atmosphere or something. Waiting for the right personnel to a degree. And I think, you know, just sort of make that program happen. Youth education coordinator? Perhaps you...
Maybe. I'm graduating in May.
It's really going to require that. Like on our website, we have a whole section of like proposed specialists. Youth education is one of them. Saying there's ones on there like woodworking. That, you know, I fool around in the shop and make stuff all the time. But if somebody could do that more full time, that would be superb. You know, to be able to offer classes and to be in there, you know, 3-4 days a week would be awesome. And just as well, you know, somebody in youth coordination or volunteer coordinator or marketing, you know, it'd be great to get more people involved.
Just waiting for the right person to come in.
Yeah, right interest. And I think that once again really is significant to me because it relates to how this model is transferable. Because there are tons of people, I'm sure, in Boston and New York right now who are graphic designers or into marketing who are sitting behind their desk wondering how they can get to a farm, to transition from that urban sort of rat race into a place that's more rewarding and offers a more life fulfillment for them. And I think this model is something that we could transfer all around and provide that space for people to get to break out. Their professional skills, you know, would still be highly valued, and they would just be finding a way to do it in this kind of environment and do it for purposes, you know, for a mission. It would be really great to see. Instead of working for a paycheck. Commuting for a paycheck sounds freaking awful. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Lots of people do it though. So.
They're brave, courageous.
They are.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes you get, I think some people are stubborn to it too, you know. I think that they just assume that's the only way to do it and just gotta stick with it and it'll all work out. I sort of...
A lot of peer pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, in general, it's societal pressure and conventions. Yeah, it's troubling how, like, we sort of all get pushed and channeled into this way of doing things. And it seems averse to what we really want. What we really want to do is encourage diversity and variety. First, everybody doing the same thing.
Well, I guess we should wrap it up.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
You don't have any more questions.
No, not really.
That was a great. I think you did very well with your
Thank
questions. Okay, they were like one after you were thinking of them while I was trying to say something. That's all right. I saw you once in a while. You were thinking of your next question. Okay.
No.
We didn't have any notes. How are you coming up with? Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Sneaky.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. No more questions.
No. Thank you so much for meeting me. I have to say, I really appreciate it.
Cool. No, I hope you got something out of it. Sends you in the right direction you want to go.
Lots of stuff. I have to say, I went onto your Facebook and I was looking and we already had I had 6 friends who had liked your page.
Oh wow.
And 3 of them went to school with me, 3 others were just people who I've met along. So I thought that was really interesting. And not all of them went from New Hampshire or even New England. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was like, oh, I'm impressed to see this place. All these people are liking it. It must be pretty cool.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good sign and a bad sign, It's nice to be popular in that sense, but it's also, you tend to wonder, what else is out there, I think that there's lots of places out there, it's just we are sort of notorious.
Yeah.
And really have taken that World Wide Web and stuff and really tried to utilize it.
You definitely have to.
It seems like at this juncture.
It's a great media to get things out there and have lots of people see it. And hopefully other people can get inspired to do a similar thing. Just looking, so.
Totally. Well, we'll make a video. We'll put it on YouTube.
That'd be great.
And then people can learn all about it. I'll do this tonight.
That'll be super great. My teachers will be very excited.
Okay, cool.